Yo, what is up, people? It is your boy MM2K of CloudDosage, GEiX, Hard Knock Digital Culture, back again with another episode of Cloud Meets Mainstream. This is the members first content where I take my experience in the cloud community, I bounce it back to what I've learned in the mainstream community before and after my cloud experience. And then I bring my intel back to you, the cloud gamer, to let you know how much of a gap still exists, has it shrunk or whatever, with your favorite cloud platforms as far as it reaching the mainstream populace. Today's show, I want to focus on Xbox because I feel like there's a misunderstanding about my take on Xbox and what my motivations are behind that. And so I wanted to take this time to kind of like circle back, make sure that everybody is aware of why I say what I say and what purpose I'm trying to serve here. And in addition to that, explain to you what I currently feel about Xbox due to a recent experience that I had with the Xbox cloud streaming platform. I'll give you a hint. I was very, very surprised. How was I surprised? We'll get into that. But if you could do us a huge favor, hit that like button. Definitely hit that subscribe button. And think about becoming a member. We're going to be doing this every week, where this will be members first content. And then we got some other things that we're looking to do too. And being a member here now gets you access to the MM2K gaming network of content. That's the flip side of what I do here. Like, I focus mainly on AAA gaming, mainstream gaming and mainstream platforms, but then I try to introduce people to cloud gaming via NVIDIA Geforce now, because I feel like that platform is the closest thing to reach to check the boxes that they have as a gamer. So yeah, if you want to check out that content over there too, me and Cold Blood, join us over there. We're still on Hard Knock Digital Culture. That is our Twitch platform where we focus on badassery as far as gaming, anime, martial arts. So join us over there, Hard Knock Digital Culture again. So I got myself spread pretty thin. It's Hard Knock Digital Culture, MM2K Gaming Network, and CloudDosage. So check me out. All right. So I want to talk about some things in relation to Xbox. I'm going to start with, I'm going to talk about my history with Xbox, right? So let me make sure I put that in here. My Xbox history. Then next I want to talk about my xCloud experience, recent xCloud experience. And lastly, I want to talk about the solution. We're not talking about the solution. We'll get to that. All right. Oops, sorry for that mic hit. Let's start here. With no further ado, let's start here. Let's talk about my Xbox history. So if you've been following my content over on MM2K Gaming Network of content, you would have seen me not be so kind to Xbox. Here's why. Way before cloud gaming was even a thing, I have taken a long hiatus from gaming. I did have a PlayStation 1. Even when the PlayStation 2 came out, I had a PlayStation 1. Wasn't really into the 2. Because I just loved RPGs. So I played my RPGs on my PlayStation 1. I did eventually end up getting a 2, but I think I got one that was backwards compatible with the PlayStation 1. And all I did was buy RPGs. That's all I did. So outside of playing an RPG and maybe getting into an RPG like maybe once every 2 weeks, like sitting down for a few hours on a Saturday if I had a Saturday that I could waste away. I would say once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, I would whip out one of my RPGs that I hadn't yet finished, play it for like 3 or 4 hours, you know what I'm saying, and go about my business. Then the OG Xbox and the GameCube came out. And because I missed the whole N64 era. So I got reinfused with gaming then. I had more time on my hands and I said, well, let me get back into gaming. I did momentarily have a Dreamcast, but never could really get into it. Then the GameCube and the OG Xbox came out and then I tried those out, right? Fell in love with the GameCube. Loved the GameCube. Loved the innovation that they were trying, especially with the Game Boy Advance color, where you could, use that as a controller. I thought that was dope. And I had like a little thing running where there was a store that I would get used games from, and they would heavily discount their used games. Like if there was a smudge on them, they would mark them down to $5, right? They would mark them down to $5, and I would take them then to like an EB Games or GameStop, and there they would be worth $25, right? So I would be trading them in and doing all that stuff, right? And made a lot of in-store credit. So I was living with my brother at the time. I had a GameCube. I had an Xbox. I bought him a GameCube and an Xbox. And then that's when they were still selling computer parts. And then you could order some stuff online. So then we had a badass PC, 2 Xboxes, 2 GameCubes. No. Only one GameCube because my brother really didn't care for the GameCube. We had 2 Xboxes, 2 PlayStation 2s, a GameCube, and a PC. And we had this like sweet ass game room up in the attic. It was laid out. And we would go up there every weekend, do some drinking, and just kick it in the game room and have us a blast, right? So as time went on, the GameCube died, right? GameCube died, and I was kind of disappointed, and I was like, wow, well, I got this Xbox and this PlayStation. And I played the PlayStation for, I love King of Fighters. There were some games out there, the big ticket games that, if you really wanted to try them, they were only on PlayStation. Like Nintendo had its lineup of games, but they were not as great on the GameCube. Like there were some great titles on there, but the real big hitters were on PlayStation 2. So that's what my PlayStation 2 was for, was those third-party games that you just couldn't get it elsewhere except for PlayStation. My Xbox was mainly for like PC-esque type games that they were bringing the console. I thought that was sweet about the OG Xbox. When the GameCube died, I started to see that I gravitated more to the OG Xbox, and the OG Xbox started to get a little bit more third-party games. Like maybe not the real big ones, because the real big ones were dedicated to Sony. They had deals with them, but games like Conflict, Desert Storm, and I forgot. I keep forgetting this EA game that I love. Was my favorite game of that generation. Oh, I can't believe I keep forgetting that game. But yeah, I noticed that I was playing them on the OG Xbox, and I'm like, wow, this looks leagues better than the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube. And my problem with the OG Xbox was that Duke controller. So when they came with those microcontrollers, I started playing it a lot more. And, upon the death of the GameCube, that became my favorite platform. You fast forward to the 360, and I liked Perfect Dark Zero. I thought the visuals were cool, and the way that I guess the increased RAM could handle the tech that was behind your weaponry and stuff like that. I thought that was badass. The laptop gun, that was my favorite gun. The laptop gun that I think you could like stick anywhere, you could throw it anywhere and have a gun kill the enemies and stuff like that. That was dope. And a lot of that stuff that was in that game was possible only because of the technology that was in the enhanced technology that was in the 360. So that started it. That broke the seal for me. The exclusive Call of Duty game that they had for the 360 was banging. And then the doors were just like thrusted wide open. It was Prey, Quake 4. Oh my God, like so many great innovative titles that were on the 360. And then I think the gauntlet was dropped when Gears of War was released. When Gears of War released, that was it. You know, then they followed up with Crackdown, you know, and a bunch of other games. I remember getting Rainbow Six Vegas on there, and loving it on there. That was a multi-plat though, but still loving it on the 360. There's just so many great games on that platform and so many great experiences that were just unparalleled for a console, that my affinity for the Xbox grew even further. So you fast forward to the Xbox One generation, where, you know, towards the end of the 360 generation, the Xbox kind of abandoned like the console war. And again, when I say console war, I don't want you to I'm not talking about the for lack of a better term, gentrified term that's being used by people that don't understand what the hell console war means. The console war is an executive term. I've been gaming for 35 plus years. I've seen this all. At E3, the console war in that exact term was spoken about. It just meant the competition between the different platforms. As we fast forwarded and gaming started becoming more pop culture, and you started seeing the popularity of fanboy growing, someone snatched the name console war and they started using it, calling it that. Fanboying console war, or console warring. The console war is just a snapshot view of the competition between the different platforms. So during the console war, Xbox had abandoned the console war, its competition with the PlayStation 3. They abandoned it in this last 2 years, and they used the last 2 years as testing grounds for the Kinect, and they released Kinect 1.0. Kinect 1.0 was a success. It was the best-selling video game peripheral of all time, I think it was, for a console, and it was a huge success. So Microsoft said, great, this is the path we want to go on. We want to make Kinect-style games that are more family-friendly or use the innovation of this camera, and I don't think what they realize is that, I mean, you had 86 million consoles out there, or 80 million consoles out there, and you left the people with 2 years of nothing left to play. So of course, if you're jumping on this Kinect kick, you know, everybody's already invested in your ecosystem. They've already abandoned PlayStation or whatever, or doubled down on Xbox. So they might as well try this damn thing, because you're not giving them any other choice. You, outside of multiplats, you're really not invested in anything else exclusive. So and even I bought a Kinect. I tried to set it up and I tried to use it, and it just, you know, I just had no interest with it. But a lot of people did. They enjoyed it, and you know, and Xbox thought they had something golden on their hands. You fast forward to the Xbox One, where they tried to make a balance of this Kinect, TV integration, and playing games. So in order for you to be a jack of all trades, you got to sacrifice something. So they sacrificed some fidelity, you know what I mean? But fidelity back then wasn't a thing until Digital Foundry came out. Digital Foundry came out during the launch of the Xbox One generation, and they were the propaganda machine for PlayStation enthusiasts. They were doing all this analysis of, you know, how many pixels and this, and it was in the grass. It was Grassgate when it came to the GTA ports on the the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. Like, it was just the most ridiculous conversations. I remember myself going to GameStop, hooking up PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones to look at various games that were out and not noticing a difference. There was nothing visible to the naked eye, but Digital Foundry was able to overpurport this stuff and make it a big deal. So news started to spread. Then you had the whole shared game thing. That was really at the root of it. The shared game issue made a lot of people upset that Xbox was going to enact DRM back in 2013 and force you, after 2 trades of a license, that the license would then be nullified. There were some other cool things they were going to do, but that was overshadowed, of course, by that whole DRM thing. And then PlayStation just slobber knockered them at E3. And Xbox, that version of Xbox never rebounded. So what happened? In 2014, Satya Nadella becomes the new CEO, and Don Matrick, who was the head of Xbox, is let go. Phil Spencer takes his place. Phil Spencer was head of studios, and it just then Phil's job to then run Xbox and even see if it was viable. There was questions on if Microsoft was going to keep them. Satya Nadella is on the record saying that Microsoft isn't one of their core businesses. He put him under Terry Myerson, who was the Windows guy, just to make sure that the finances were curtailed and spending was put under wraps. They canceled games. They studios disappeared. The London studios, I think it was, or the UK studios that was working on Fable Legends. That was in a beta that was getting some higher praise. That got released. That got slashed. With the Platinum's game, what is the name of the game? Scalebound. That got slashed. Scalebound was this big controversy. And then in the midst of the unpopularity of the Kinect and the fact that the Xbox was $100 more because of the Kinect, but it was less powerful as a gaming machine, people felt some way about that. So Xbox had to get rid of the Kinect and sell the Xbox at $399 alongside of the PlayStation 4. During this time, Phil Spencer says that, hey, look, we get the 360 pedigree. We want to compete. We want to be the best in we want to make the best video games. And there's some other technologies like cloud and stuff like that we want to introduce to make this better. So you're going to get what you're used to, but it's going to get enhanced technically. Those were the conversations that we were having. However, it felt like that whatever Phil tried didn't land. Now, I will say one thing that Phil did try, or maybe it wasn't Phil's thing. It was likely signed before Phil even took over. But that was the Tomb Raider reboot when it got released in 2016, 2017. And when that got released, everybody was asking, well, when is it coming to PlayStation? Right. Which wasn't fair. And there was this big thing of, well, we're not going to, then it was released that it's only timed exclusive. And then that kind of like killed any momentum that Xbox was going to have. And I feel like that the Tomb Raider game got a lower rating because of that. It was a fantastic game, but it didn't get, a real good score. Got a mediocre Metacritic score. So it was like, oh yeah, this ain't no banger from Xbox or no exclusive banger from Xbox. So, forget about it. And so that, instead of pressing on and like trying to deal with that variable, it seems like that Satya Nadella and Xbox decided, we're not going to fight this way anymore. We're not going to fight for exclusive content with these third-party developers. what we're going to do is we're going to buy up studios. We're going to own the damn IP. If we're going to spend this money, let's spend it in buying the IP. And that's all fine and good because they got the money to do it. The problem is that if you don't know how to curate content and make sure what you're absorbing is putting out quality content, then you're going to be looked at as an albatross to gaming. You're going to be people are going to look at you like, well, why did you even buy this company? Because before they got involved with you, they put hits out. Now that you're involved, they suck. A lot of people felt that way about Starfield. And I know within the cloud community, particularly Xbox gamers in the cloud community, there's a deep love for Starfield. And game, what you consider good or not to be good, personally is subjective. What's not subjective, what is objective, is that the majority of gamers, Xbox gamers included, did not score that game well. So that's when the question started to rise: is Microsoft like an albatross to gaming? Then the ABK drama happens. Xbox purchases ABK. They really think, okay, now they're going to get back into the thicket of the competition. Even though there's questions about Xbox's ability to monitor and curate great content. But then now it looks like that they're going to go third party. So all those people that were like myself, who fell in love with the Xbox because of the OG, based upon all the things that it presented and curated, and were listening to Phil when he took over from Don Matrick, thinking that they were refocusing, rebounding, getting back to where they were at with the 360, but with just enhanced technology, didn't realize that that's not what they were going to do. They probably made some valiant, I don't want to say valiant efforts, they made some efforts. I don't think they stuck it through, but then they've ultimately decided on the subscription service, which was always part of the new proposal. But the subscription service being something that they implement, it's an option now instead of being their flagship product. It's an option now. They're going to distribute games wherever they can. There's no longer competing platforms. They may have their own platform, but they're definitely not trying to compete and outsell other platforms. Everything is just an option. It's like GE, General Electric. If you're familiar with GE, you know that GE just makes everything. You know, they want to be everywhere. And that's what Xbox looks like they want to be. They want to be the GE of gaming. That being said, that is a complete deviation from what I and other former Xbox enthusiasts were looking for. Kudos to them in their new stint. Hopefully they do better. But that's why I speak up regularly against Xbox. And now it's not necessarily me speaking up. It's now me going back to those that were under the same umbrella as expectation as me, but kept telling me, no, this is what they're going to do. You just jumped out too early. And now that the revelation is pretty much etched in stone, that they are completely changing what they were from what their focus was in the 360 era, and what made them popular. Now people are having a rough time. And so now I'm utilizing this time to say, well, look, you're slipping out of your psychosis. We got it now that you're listening, even though you might still be in denial. Now that you're listening, let's have a very frank discussion about what your needs are and why your personal needs are not serviced here anymore. This is a service station for somebody else. It's like if you got a T-bone steak shop and you're looking outside and you're seeing evidence that they're bringing in vegan food, and all the evidence is there. They got no dead animal sign up, and you're like, well, hold on, this place is going vegan, and you got people saying, no, this is not going vegan. No, absolutely not. Person just doesn't want you to harm cows or whatever the case may be, right? And then one day you walk in and it's fully vegan. You kept believing it. I kept telling you. You told me, oh, shut up. You're just hating because you can't cook steaks like they can here. And then one day you walk in and it's vegan. So it's now like, okay, can you see it? It's vegan now. Now what's next? Because you spent all these years in a psychosis, not looking for another steak shop, not preparing yourself for another steak shop, not knowing where else you're going to go. Now, where do you go? You have no idea. I did my research. I know where to go. For myself, I can give you some suggestions on what else you may want to do under this scenario. That's where I'm at now with the content. So when you hear me saying the things that I'm saying, is based off that pretense. A lot of you listening to this and say, well, you know what, too bad, so sad for you. I don't have those problems. I'm totally happy with their direction. I think it's cool. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But be aware that in order for cloud gaming to grow, those things that are important to those people, those boxes have to be checked or they're not even going to look over here. And it's not, as much as I think cloud gaming is the future, as much as that's my belief system, it's not etched in stone. We need them over here. And they're not coming until certain boxes are checked. And that's what the purpose of this show is to bring that context, let you know who's checking off more boxes, who's making the inroads. And then we can have a discussion too on our inroads being met, but sacrifices to what makes cloud gaming, are they happening? You know, like when we start talking about Xbox, I do want to talk about, not Xbox. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, inroads have to be met. Now, I don't mind having a conversation about PlayStation. Like, to me, as impressed as I am with the PlayStation cloud streaming output, I think it's asinine to have it tethered to your console. I've talked to cloud gamers who said, no, it's only temporary, but look, we can have this discussion during that episode. I get the angst about putting your stuff on PC day and date. I had to come around to that, really look at it from 5,000 feet, talk to a lot of people that crunch numbers and say stuff that made a lot of sense to me. So I get the not going PC day and date. There's going to be too much spillage on some critical financial income to where day and date PC and logistically day and date PC just doesn't make sense for PlayStation at the moment. Get it. But cloud, you don't have those problems. You might have some logistically, but as far as the financial spillage, no, you don't have it. Because you are the proprietor of the cloud platform. So if you drop a day and date on the cloud, you still get all the money versus you doing it on dropping a day and date on PC, you got to give up 30% to somebody. You trying to, even if you go with a PC store, that's going to suck. That's another logistical issue that you got to deal with, right? And then lastly, if you're doing this if you are doing day and date on PC with a PC store, then your hardcore gamers are going to go to PC. And guess what? Guess where they're not buying their multiplats anymore. So it just doesn't make sense for PlayStation. We'll talk about that during that time. So I'm more than willing to have those conversations about PlayStation as well, where they're not viable. But I'm not going to do it just to say, oh, okay, I said something negative about Xbox on Monday, so Tuesday I got to say something bad about PlayStation, and then Wednesday I got to say something bad about Luna. That's not how this works. If you have the bulk or the lion's share of the issues, we want you to get it corrected. We should as a community. So we're going to, you'll get the lion's share of the focus and of the time, as far as getting them corrected. That's my approach. I get it may not be the most popular approach because people don't see issues or problems, but I'm telling you that we don't want this thing, cloud gaming, to remain in a silo. We want it to extend to the gaming populace. And just sitting there saying, oh, they're going to have to get over it one day, that's not going to fly. The age of the average gamer is in their 30s. These people are going to be playing games in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, maybe even their 60s. Some of your favorite game developers, you understand they're older, right? Like some of your studio heads. How old do you think Todd Howard is? Todd Howard is not in his 20s. These are old fogies like your boy. So if they are driving gaming, if they're driving the decision making behind gaming, hold on one second. If they're driving the decision making behind gaming, then you still need to convince them. There's still some convincing that's going to be needed. And you don't convince them by keeping things the way that they are. Enhancements need to be made, but in order for enhancements to be made, there has to be money coming in. So it's kind of like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Yeah, cloud gaming has the potential of bringing these people over, rapidly, and making them realize, oh, you know what? This is what I've been missing. But you kind of need that investment in order to spur that even faster if you want it to happen rapidly. But it doesn't happen rapidly unless unless the games come. Unless the people start coming. So you want these people to become more and more entrenched in cloud gaming, and that's why I said there's some check boxes. There's some boxes that have to be checked. I'm sorry, hold on one more second. So yeah, that's where we're at. We kind of are in a situation where Xbox wants to be a driver in that arena. And we want them to be a driver in that arena. And in order for them to be a driver, there's just some boxes that they definitely need to check. So we're going to have those discussions here. So what we need to do is, now that I've went back and told you my history with Xbox and why I say what I say, let's talk about my recent xCloud experience. So I played a game, and I'm going to show you guys the game. I played a game yesterday, or the day before yesterday. And for full disclosure, the purpose of the stream, well, the game was Redfall. Okay. And for those same people that have been following my content, then you know that I am not a fan of Redfall at all. I cannot stand that game. I have tastes. I have tastes that, again, as a AAA genre defining gamer, 30 plus years over now, that you're not, when you slap a price tag on something, and say, hey, look, this is $70 or $60, whatever the premier price tag is, what you're telling me is that you're giving me a top-notch visual, atmospherics, animation experience with some, technologically sound innovation as far as implementation is concerned. So with that said, I look at Starfield, I mean, not Starfield, I look at Redfall and it represents none of that. So because of that, you're going to get many of us that are not going to look at this and say, oh, look, this is in Game Pass. We're not saying, oh, look, this is in Game Pass, so because of that, we're going to, it's good for that. No, Game Pass is only part of the equation, and I get, for us as cloud gamers, that's how we're mainly engaging with these Xbox games. On the heels of Stadia's death, we want to play as many games as we can, like we were with Stadia Pro, under a subscription model. And that's how we're mainly engaging with these games. Some of us do have the consoles as well. Some of us are willing to buy games outside of Game Pass, but a huge bulk of us are, simply relying on what hits Game Pass day and date. And there's enough titles there that, understandably so, that could tickle your fancy. But for those of us that want to know what Game Pass promises, is it promises single A, double A, indie experiences, and AAA experiences. So when I'm looking at a AAA game that I'm willing to buy, because even though I'm a cloud enthusiast, if there's a game that I want to play and it's only available natively, like with the PlayStation games, I'll get it natively. And I don't just look at it from, even though I primarily game on the cloud, I think trying to look at games that have the AAA moniker, like if it's a AAA game, it doesn't matter if it's on the cloud, on a calculator, on a microwave, whatever. It needs to have the bells and whistles that any AAA game has. You're not going to go to the, and again, that correlates with us getting the mainstream to come over here. You can't go to the mainstream and say, hey, look, here's our AAA game on the cloud, and it's abysmal. And so then it gets lauded for that, and then you say, hold on, but this is just the cloud, and it's in a subscription service. They're going to say, see, this cloud gaming thing is going to water down gaming. Because it's part of a subscription service and because it's on the cloud, you want me to accept things that I normally don't want. I'm not watering down my expectations just to play on the cloud because you feel it's innovative. That's their mind state. And again, they are the majority. We need them more than they need us. We need them to convert over to solidify cloud gaming's future, right? And I do think that day is going to happen. But how expeditiously it does, again, determines on what boxes are being checked. So with that being said, Redfall, I don't think you can look at a game like Redfall that is of a big studio that was just purchased for $8 billion. I don't think you can look at Redfall and say, well, because it's available on the cloud and because it's in a subscription service, we're going to screw the fact that it's been presented as a AAA game. That doesn't matter. What matters is that it's available on the cloud. No. And I even think under that pretense, it's just not a good game. I don't think it's a good game, period. I don't care what the price tag is, but the thing that makes it more egregious is you're telling us this was your AAA effort. So I'm looking for, the fact of the matter is, we in this community, we can praise our indie games or AA games, and that's fine. I've done that, even though I'm a big steward of AAA games. I've done that, right? But the men lie, women lie, and the numbers don't lie. The games that sell the 10 million to 15 to 20 million, more so than not, are the AAA games. Those are the games in volume that more people seek than the AA games. When you see a AA game sell 2 million, you're like, wow, that's great. That's great. But these AAA games, hitting 7, 10 million, 15 million, whatever, those are the games that are doing it. There are unicorns like a Power World or whatever, but the majority of games that are hitting these multiple millions in sales are the AAA games. Time and time again. So I brought that up to say this. When you sit there and slap that $70 price tag on there, there's an expectation behind it. Bells and whistles, top of the line technology, and so forth. And if you don't deliver on that, like really at all, like Redfall does not deliver on that at all, it's going to get lauded, and I think deservingly so. People may say, oh, you purist. I do think when it comes to high-end, top-of-the-line technology, you got to kind of gatekeep. Because companies will try to skim you and make you pay more for less. So if you don't hold their feet to the fire and say to them, look, this is supposed to, if you're marketing this as a high-end product, it better be a high-end product. We got content out right now over on the main channel where I'm questioning games like Rise of Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and even Dragon's Dogma. Why are these games $70? Like, I get that Rise of the Ronin and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, they have performance modes. But when you look at the machines and how they run on these machines compared to other third-party games with performance modes, the other games blow them out of the water. And these games, Rise of the Ronin and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, are launching exclusively for the PlayStation. So to me, that's unacceptable in a lot of ways and worth the debate. The thing that ain't worth the debate to me is games like Dragon's Dogma that has no performance mode at all. If you're going to slap a $70 price tag on something, I'm not just picking on Redfall. If you're going to slap a $70 price tag on something, that's like an air of prestige. That means something. You can't come to a muscle car show or a show with a whole bunch of exotic cars in it like Lamborghinis and Maseratis and bring a Dodge Prius and try to sell it for the same price as a Maybach or something. You can't do that. Even though the Prius is great on gas, it gets you from point A to point. Even if it's a great family car, it doesn't matter. When you slap that price tag on there, you're telling the consumer, expect this type of prestige. So us dropping it in Game Pass or whatever, that's an added bonus. We're giving you this type of prestige in this value proposal. So I said all that to say this. We were playing Redfall. We called it a suffer stream because I just think the game is bad, really bad. But the bright spot was, to a degree, I don't want to get overzealous, that I was totally surprised at the quality in which the game was playing. Here, let me do this. I'm gonna put the game on the screen. Let's go here. If I can find it. Why can't I find my web source? There we go. All right. Okay, that's not working right. Is that the right web source? No, that's not. There we go. All right. There she blows. Okay. Yeah, that's me playing Redfall. Let me go a little bit further. Now, I'm going to talk about the bad, and then I'm going to talk about the good. Let's get the bad out of the way. The visuals of this were inconsistent and basically inferior to its peers. I get that there's people that may run into a situation where xCloud perform better than anything else to them. Hell, my co-host over on MM2K Gaming, Coldblood, he claims, and I don't think he's lying, that his cloud gaming experience is pixelated and choppy and horrible. And it was like that until he played the new revamped PlayStation 5 streaming service. And I don't doubt that. There could be better servers close to wherever he's at and so forth. And that could just be, he could just be a unicorn in that situation. I know there are people that told me that Luna's the best for them. They can't get everything else working, but Luna certainly is the best for them. So you're going to have varieties in situations. I think it's safe to say, in listening and talking to people, and what we have to do is get out of the realm of listening to someone or listening to these small brackets that agree with our subjectivity. What you got to do is look at the reception at mass to get an objective viewpoint. What I mean by an objective viewpoint is, it's subjective if a certain bracket or even just an individual says a game is good or bad. What's not subjective, which is objective, is when you say 70% of the gamers that have interacted with the game, our data shows they don't like it. That's objective. So we got to get away from the subjective preaching to the choir practices and get to the more objective. Okay, how is this landing with the gaming populace? Like, how do we uphold the things that are true to us as cloud gamers that we think are necessary for cloud gaming? Like, I think it's necessary for PlayStation cloud gaming to get the frick off the PlayStation 5. No excuse for that at all as far as I'm concerned. But, whatever, that's me. That being said, we got to get out of our own subjective preaching to the choir brackets and look at it objectively and not be dismissive of it. Because even though, like, for instance, I thought it was stupid during the Xbox One generation that gamers were so messed up about the DRM thing and didn't take into consideration that Xbox was going to let you share your games with up to 9 people. You heard me right, 9. That's crazy. So, and then from what I understand, those 9 people could play simultaneously. Like, so you could go in and have 9 people chipping on the game with you. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you would have them, but you can have your buddies chipping on the game and y'all all could just be game sharing and playing the same game at the same time. That was sick. I was upset at the fact that people didn't see the value in that and was so upset about the DRM thing. And what I had to reconcile with is that the populace just values trading in their games. So much so that they'll look past that. Like even as cloud gamers, we look at the fact that there's no downloads and no updates. We just hit the game and go boop. And the average gamer doesn't care about that. They look over that for performance. And do you have every single game that gets released? So even though we say, you know what, there are just some games that you're not going to like. Like who cares that Fizzle Chisel Popper isn't on GFN? I care, because that means that you might not get so-and-so, so-and-so. That's 20,000 times bigger. And people actually make excuses for waiting on downloads. It's amazing to me. But that's understanding the variable that you're dealing with and realizing, hey, look, this has to land in a way that's important to them. Even though this is important to me, it's not important to them. And we got to face the facts. We need them more than they need us. We're going to be vital once they make the switch. But until that happens, we need them more than they need us. So again, how can we win them over without cloud gaming compromising its core? And that's why I say, you know, I'm all for people trying PlayStation Cloud, you know, PlayStation 5 Cloud via their, you know, what's it called? Their PlayStation 5s. I'm all for people liking it because of that, but I don't want that to be a standard. I don't want cloud gaming to be tethered to a $500 box. I think that's ridiculous. But again, I keep getting out of order. We'll talk about that when we get to the PlayStation 5 specific stream. That being said, if you're watching the game, I felt the positives were that the visual degradation that I see happening, the inconsistent visuals, weren't as bad as they used to be. Like what it used to be is that I would play a game and it just would be so god awful and ugly that I didn't want to play it anymore. Like Gears of War comes to mind. Gears 5. I hate playing that on xCloud. It's just too ugly to me. But I'm starting to see with more and more games that they play more like this, where the visual degradation isn't as horrible. Wasn't as off-putting, and the movement is fluid. And I'm you know, you're seeing frame drops. You're seeing drops to like 40 in certain cases. But it keeps 60 a good portion of the time. And that's a lot better than what it was. From what I understand, there might have been some adjustments made to where Xbox Series S profiles are now being used for each user instead of Series X profiles. That way you can have more instances on the server if you give someone a Series S profile. But but it looks like that it may be helping with congestion. You know what I mean? So that part of it is the positives. Here's the negatives. It's still visually inferior. I was supposed to start with the negatives, wasn't I? But it's still visually inferior. The pixelation, if you can't notice, it still gets bad. It still looks ashy. And in order for me to get the things that I was just praising, like to get it to that level to where it just didn't make me want to throw up in my mouth, I had to use a program or I had to use a tool set called Better xCloud. And so what you do is you look up Better xCloud. It's a good GitHub. I mean, there's a couple of programs you got to download, or you got to download this other program. I think it's called XMonkey or something like that. And then you got to download the Better xCloud tool set and install them. And then once you do that, you can play around with some settings. It was very critical for me because there's a couple things going on here. Number one, yeah, xCloud just isn't as flexible as Stadia is on the browser. And I think they did that on purpose, which is not smart. Like what Stadia didn't do, from my understanding, is they didn't degrade didn't degrade the experience if you wanted to go to Chromium, right? To Edge Chromium. As a matter of fact, it looks better on Chromium. It used less resources on Chromium, but there was a little bit more lag. And I think it just had something to do with Chromium still not being 100% yet. But they didn't degrade the experience at all. For some reason, if you're on Chrome, you can't use, or I couldn't use, the fidelity increased button. It didn't pop up for me on Chrome. Maybe it's a plugin that I just didn't have, but I couldn't use the fidelity enhancement button. And even with or without the fidelity enhancement, I compared the two. It looks significantly better on on Chromium Edge than it does on Google Chrome. That's without the fidelity enhancement. But the problem was that for some reason on Chromium Edge, I couldn't get past 30 frames per second. Even when I was selecting the performance mode, it had me stuck in 30 frames per second. The only thing that fixed that was better xCloud. And every now and again, when I go boot up xCloud, it still tries to make me play at 30 frames per second. Thank goodness I can look at the ticker that's up there and tell if it's got me locked to 30. And if it does, I just simply got to reclose the page and reload it. Or I got to close the page, open it back up, or reload it. So those are the cons. Here's what's still needed though. Okay, here's the solution. So even though I was happy with what I was happier with what I saw, here's what I think we're going to continue to see. And as you can see, they're like, look, in that phrase frame, it just like, it looked good. As I'm moving around, it's getting ashy and blurry. Sometimes when I move around, it looks good. Very inconsistent. So they got to first, before they even deal with the consistency, I really think we're at the point now to where xCloud should be enhanced to 1440p over a browser. Like if you can't do 4K, I can totally dig it. But at least 1440p over a browser. I think we're at that point. Secondly, you need better stream quality, like I said. Like this inconsistency and the frame drops to, I want to say like 40, maybe even lower. And it doesn't happen all the time, but you can definitely notice when it's happening. Doesn't happen every 3 seconds, but it happens often enough to where it's noticeable. It's not totally immersion breaking, but it's annoying. And it's something that I don't deal with their competitors. And lastly, you need better server support. I don't know what you did. You know, people talk about that the servers feel less congested. You've cut down on times. Keep doing that, please. Do it even more. I get to where there's the FCC thing still going, so you might pump your brakes on this. But as soon as you get past the FCC, hopefully we get an improved version of xCloud that at least puts you on par with your peers. At least, even if you're not going to go to 1440p resolution, at least have better stream quality and clarity. And you should be able to do so without sacrificing too much in latency. Come on now. That being said, I want to see you either present better output or give us a roadmap of, look, you know, once you get past the FCC, you know, all right, look, this is what we're looking to do. And even, you know, talk to people about it. But we got an Xbox beta coming with some serious enhancements. You just stay tuned. At least let us know. Because that all that is promising for cloud gaming. I mean, it's cool to hear that you guys have increased the usage of cloud gaming versus dedicated gaming to double-digit figures. That's cool and all, but there's still room for improvement, and a rising tide lifts all boats. So that's what I have to say. I'm impressed because the experience was better. It was under these certain scenarios, me playing on Edge Chromium, better xCloud, that in playing the more current games. I feel like this is something that I could, like, if I had no other way to play a game and I had to use xCloud, I wouldn't be upset. Before I would have been upset. But now I'm not going to be. I wouldn't be upset. Is it my preferred way? No, it's going to be the last way that I play. But if I have no other option and I got to play with xCloud, I'm not upset anymore. That's a step up. That is a step up. All right. That's our episode for today. Again, we have to get to a point to where we understand that we get out of our own silos and we recognize some of these mainstream expectations. You know, we're not going to throw away the core fundamentals of cloud gaming, but a lot of these mainstream expectations as far as it comes to performance and game availability and library and catalog, that stuff is important. You can't argue with somebody, okay, yes, you should play this way, that's millions of pixels less and has less stability in the frames than what you're used to, but you should do it because you don't get any downloads. That's not going to work. It has to be a give and take, and we got to give a little bit more without giving away the fundamentals. We got to understand, and when I say give, I mean we got to really be beholden to pushing for better libraries with these cloud services, better libraries, better performance. And that's why I follow NVIDIA GeForce now. I love the platform. And it's my favorite way, not to just cloud game, to game period. But that's it from your boy. Hope you guys appreciate this. We will be doing this, like I said, once a week. Every Wednesday, I'll release this to the public. It'll be the following streams show. Unfortunately, this week I had to record this because there's something wrong with YouTube. But with that said, I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Until next time, have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.